Good evening, everyone. I will start the meeting now. Thank you in the gallery. Thank you. I'll start by acknowledging the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to culture, country and community, including traditional custodians of this land, the Wadandi and Kaniang people of the Noongar Nation, paying respects to elders past and present. We'll declare the meeting open at 5 p.m. And firstly, a reminder that the meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with Council Policy EMCP2. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of this meeting by any other means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson. While every endeavour is being made to only record those who are actively participating in the meeting, loud comments or noises may be picked up in the recording. At item 2 in attendance this evening, we have a full bench, which is good, second time. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Anita Lindeman, Councillor Grant Patrick, Councillor Tyler Hall, Councillor Purick, Councillor Alex Purick, Deputy, and Councillor Reggie Kian, and Councillor Amanda McNabb. And I'm Vivian McCarthy, the Shire President. The staff present this evening are CEO Nick O'Connor, Executive Manager Corporate Lauren Clifford, Director of Finance and Community Colin Young, Acting Director of Operations Damien Morgan, and we have in the gallery, are you right, Lauren, in counting who we have in the gallery? Okay. Welcome to everyone in the gallery. It's lovely to see you there. At 2.1, we have apologies from Director of Operations, Roscoe Marshall. And at 2.2, we have approved leave of absence from our Ordinary Council meeting held on the 22nd of April 2026, where Council resolved to approve Councillor Ringe's request for leave of absence for the May 2026 Ordinary Council meeting. Now, councillors, we need to suspend clause 8.2, members to rise, from our meetings procedures local law 2017. So I will move that council suspend clause 8.2, members to rise. Would someone like to second? Councillor Lindeman, all in favour? Approved. We have no announcements at item 3. Moving on to item 4, declarations of interest. Division 6, Subdivision 1 of the Local Government Act 1995 states that care should be taken by councillors, committee members and staff to ensure that a financial or impartiality interest is declared and that they refrain from voting on any matter which is considered to come within the ambit of the Act. Now, councillors, previously I've read these out in error. Councillors need to make the declarations yourselves. So if you have a declaration, please state them now. And I think I had down here Councillor Purick and Councillor McNabb.
Yes, I have a conflict of interest on item, I apologise, I do not know the number, the 9.1.1. It's a proximity interest. My family have property on Brookhampton Road, and 9.1.2 and 9.1.3, an impartiality conflict of interest. Tim McNabb is the standing FCO of Thompson Brook Fire Brigade, of which I am a member.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. And Councillor McNabb?
Yeah, I've declared a proximity interest in relation to item 9.1.1 as our property is on Thompson Brook Road.
Thank you. Moving into item 5, public question time. We have no responses to previous public questions asked and taken on notice at 5.1, so moving through to 5.2. Do members of the public have any questions? No. And none sent in? No, okay. Moving into item 6, presentations. At 6.1, we have no petitions or presentations at 6.2. Moving into 6.3, deputations. We do have 2 deputations tonight, but I'd just like to remind you at this late stage on the item that we're doing deputations on, no new information is to be brought up in your deputations. We're not assessing any additional input, so make sure that your deputations reflect what we have already been put to council. Mr. Arnie, Ms. Keir Arnie, would you like to make your deputation? No? Is that? Just while that's being sorted, Mr. Arnie is presenting a delegation in relation to item 9.1.5, development application P25071, Pine Plantation. Come up here. Up here, no, up here, not where the councillors sit.
Oh, so you can sit up there. Stand over there if that one works.
Testing.
Thanks for your patience, Mr. Arnie.
How about now? Okay, cool. So yeah, hi everyone. Thank you to the Shire President, Councillors, Chief Executive Officer for giving me the opportunity to speak on this issue again. I'll try not to ramble too much this time. My name is Keir Arnie. I'm here to represent the Nogarup community, a few of whom are here today, and to support the Shire's rightful demand for information. First of all, I'd like to express our disappointment in the applicant's legal representatives' refusal to provide any reassurance regarding our concerns about this risk to our water security. As a town not on mains and primarily reliant on bore water, the feeling in the community is that of fear and anxiety over this direct threat to our livelihoods. As highlighted in my previous deputation, Pinus radiata plantations have been proven to deplete massive amounts of water from the water table if they're able to reach groundwater. I'm not going to go over the same figures again in much detail, but the figure that I've come up with based on conservative reports is 244 megalitres a year, which is millions of litres, not millilitres. By comparison, based on Water Corp's data, on average household usage, Nogarup town site can be estimated to use 4.8 megalitres a year currently. So based on that, the applicant's proposal will have the equivalent effect of adding 1,400 new homes currently all on bore water in addition to the 30 that are currently there in terms of the amount of water that would be used from these conservative estimates here. This is a particular concern if the proposed planting area and Nogarup town site share groundwater, which the Department of Water has confirmed may be the case. Also, according to the department's own monitoring data, groundwater levels on or directly adjacent to the property are shown to be at surface level or just below surface level, which can easily be reached by roots of Pinus radiata. This information is easily accessible and it absolutely should have been disclosed by the applicant. This is just one piece of a greater puzzle that should have been filled in by the report requested of the applicant by the council. It's absolutely critical that this information is provided to determine the potential impact to health, well-being and livelihoods of the residents of the Nogarup town site as a result of this drastic increase in groundwater uptake. Nothing has changed since the council's request was made. It still stands that the compatibility of this proposed development within the proximity of the neighbouring town site is still in doubt. And this is to say nothing of the potential environmental impacts on the Preston and Leschenault catchment areas and the increased risk to reliability of firefighting resources. To date, the only risk assessment that has been carried out regarding water security has been a survey of water tanks from aerial photographs, which the Shire determined was proof that the town site is primarily reliant on rainwater, not bore water. This is an incorrect assumption. Whether they are used for rainwater or bore water storage cannot be determined by aerial photography. The majority of Nogarup town site is actually reliant on, entirely or majority reliant on bore water, with rainwater supplementing some households' usage for drinking water and irrigation. This can easily be confirmed by a survey, but this has not been done. In the report by the Shire's Planning Department, they've correctly stated in reference to the report requested of the applicant that such investigations typically require assessment during peak groundwater periods, generally winter months between August and October, to provide meaningful data. If more time is required, we would suggest that as much time as is reasonable be granted so that an accurate assessment can be made. The community would love nothing more than to read a report that shows that our water security fears are unfounded, but until then, making a final decision would be premature. In conclusion, the planning department, one of the planning department's conclusions is that based on information available, relevant agency advice, and the absence of direct groundwater abstraction associated with the proposal, the potential impacts on groundwater resources are not considered sufficient to warrant refusal of the application. Perhaps based on the information available, but a lack of information does not equal a lack of risk. To assume safety simply because data is missing is dangerous logic. As stated earlier, until the full picture is painted in, the level of risk cannot be made, despite the unfortunate delays this may create for the applicant's development plans. If this was a standard pine plantation application, a streamlined approval would be appropriate. The applicant has already had an application, a plantation proposal approved in the area, but the Nogarup plantation is not a normal situation. The site's location directly adjacent to a town site, primarily reliant on bore water, is an added complication that cannot be ignored. At the end of the day, this is a conflict between a temporary commercial interest and the permanent survival of an established township. The stakes are completely unequal. The applicant's worst case scenario is a change of location. Our community's worst case scenario is that the town becomes unlivable. The applicant's refusal to provide any meaningful water data is an answer in itself. It tells us they can't guarantee that our water is safe. All we're asking for is transparency. So we urge the council to continue to uphold their duty of care to this community and not rush into a decision that cannot be undone. Due diligence is still required despite premature pressure from the applicant's legal representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arney. Are you happy to answer any questions that councillors may have?
Sure.
Do you have any questions, councillors? No. Well, thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Cheers.
Ms. Canella Hope also would like to present a deputation in relation to item 9.1.5, development application P25071 Pine Plantation. And I'm sorry, your name?
Right, I'll introduce him if you like.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So good afternoon, councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to present. Excuse my husky voice. I'm Canella Hope, and I'm a planning consultant acting for the applicant in the Nogarup Plantation matter, and I'm joined by Glenn Sampser. Glenn is the Forestry Operations Manager for Delta, so we're both going to speak within the time, if that's okay. Overall, we agree with the officer recommendation to approve in this matter, and we ask that all councillors also support this. We do, however, query two of the recommended conditions. The first one is condition 9. This is the condition that requires a new access. Delta is more than happy to provide appropriate access to the land for harvest, but this condition requires the new access to be built now before a sapling can be put into the ground. This is many years too early. Harvest, the main harvest, is 25 years away. Can this condition please be amended? The second condition is condition 6. As we've talked about before, the DFES guidelines set out the layout, the compartment and fire break arrangement. This is industry best practice and it's tried and tested. There's been no reason put forward why these setback requirements should be changed. As we spoke about at the March Council meeting, Delta have made a big concession, setting their plantation back not 20 metres from the front, but 100 metre minimum. And this is quite a big loss of planting area, and they've been happy to do that. 12 metres rather than 6 metres around existing vegetation, and 20 metres rather than 15 along the rear boundary, which is quite long, that interfaces with the forest, the state forest. This is what's recommended in condition 6, but again, it hasn't been explained the planning purpose, the practical reason for that, and it also takes even more land out of production. As it's drafted, this extra 6 metre setback is also required to be a vehicle exclusion zone, which means it can't be manually managed like the fire breaks are. And we suggest that at that extra 6 metres risks weed infestation, even becoming more of a fire hazard. And that impacts on Delta's insurance, not available, it's land not available to the farming activity. At present, these existing vegetation areas, they're available for grazing underneath, even some cropping up under the canopy, whereas in this proposal, it excludes those native vegetation areas. They're outside of the productive areas, outside of the drip line of the trees, so they're already sufficiently protected. Can condition 6 therefore please be amended to follow the guidelines as well? Probably ideally deleted because the plans already show that they comply with the guidelines.
Thanks, Canal. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, I appreciate the community concerns. We obviously live and operate in the community. Initially, at least, we felt that the fire was the biggest risk for this development, so we put a lot of time and effort in amending our plans. You'll see the setbacks that that Canella spoke about, quite considerable. They take a fair bit of land out of production for the forest and, do go to financial viability. So that's a considerable impost on the development. I suppose the hydrological issues come a bit out of left field. They were raised, obviously, quite important in the last deputation. I suppose I did provide some further information suggesting that the town site and the plantation aren't connected via via the bedrock. I've had another look at the technical information. The plantation and the town site don't share any hydrogeology.
Is that part of the original, the information we've got now? It's not a new,
Yeah, it's been
not new
provided.
information?
Yeah, it's not new. So that's been provided previously. So they are separated. They're on different hydrogeology. They're also separated by a fault in the Preston River. So the way in which we've designed the plantation, there is no plantation on the town side of the Preston River. So effectively what water has to do has to defy gravity to get to the town site and affect the boards. The Preston River is a natural drainage line. It's some of that river is on bedrock, so if you walk that river, there will be rocky sections. So what actually happens is on that eastern side of the Donnybrook Road, as you can see, it's highly dissected. There's a lot of granite. There's not a lot of topsoil. There's not a lot of clay development. So what actually happens on that side is a lot of the water sheds, and it sheds into the Preston River. It doesn't go into a basin, fill a basin up, and therefore, and the town site isn't connected and sits on top of that basin. So I did share my mobile number. I was happy to meet out on site and talk the community through some of these issues, because I think going down and having a look at the Preston River, seeing where you sit in the landscape, where the community is, we would have been able to overcome some of these issues. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that. I provided my contact details, but this isn't the Gnangara amount. They aren't connected, so hopefully that's sufficient information for you guys to consider. I appreciate it's a difficult one. Just another thing, we're a big contributor to the Shire. We purchase our seedlings from the Forest Nursery. Forestry has played an important role in the Shire, and we want to participate and continue. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Would you be happy to answer councillors' questions
Yes.
if we have any? Councillors, do you have any questions? Councillor Bailey?
Through the chair. Your harvest time, you're going to be thinning out from time to time. The main harvest, you're talking 25 years, but
25 to 30 years.
30, 33 years for fully grown trees.
Yeah, and then thinning, expect our first harvest plan to be submitted around between 12 to 15 years from planting.
Thank you. And the other question is planting. Is it still done by hand or is it done by machine now?
Hand.
Hand. How many people and what sort of time frame are you looking at?
Yeah, so a person will plant about 3 hectares.
Yep.
So there'll be 40 man days in planting that, and those seedlings will come from Forest Nursery.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Purick?
Just with the 20-metre setbacks versus 15-metre setbacks, so have you gone in and determined the financial impact of those impacts?
Yeah, look, essentially, a hectare's, the opportunity cost for us is around $20,000 a hectare.
Okay.
Yep. So every 10 metres of a kilometre equals,
Yeah, so about 1.1.5 hectare,
yeah,
give or take, so 30 grand.
yeah. Plus the stuff on the front too. We've lost about 2.5 hectares on the front in terms of the increased setbacks.
Yep.
Over and above the 100 metres.
Can I ask you to step towards the microphone? So that
Sorry,
people
over and
are-
above the 100 metres, there's about 2.5 hectares that we've lost there in opportunity cost.
And just with the
Yep. Councillor Purick,
Sorry.
because we've got one waiting over here too.
sorry.
But you go ahead, councillor.
just with the 6-metre setback, so around drip lines and watercourses, you're essentially trying to have that 6 metres setback included in fire breaks and access roads, is that correct?
Yeah, so as it reads, we've got a 12 metre setback, but 6 metres of that we can't access and do any management on,
Yep.
as proposed by the condition. In our current plan, we've got a 6 metre setback between the drip line of the vegetation and the plantation boundary, which we maintain in a low fuel state
Yep.
as a fire break and I suppose, demarcation between the plantation and the native vegetation. As you can appreciate, we don't use those compartment breaks much. The only time really some of those get a vehicle on is when we spray it.
Can I just ask one?
I'll go to councillor Hall first. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, councillor.
Just in that fuel load management, are you using plant machinery, a Positrack or a grader or dozer to?
Yeah, so ideally we're not, we just spraying it in normal herbicides. If we have a season like last year and we have an obligation to maintain a mineral earth fire break, we may use graders.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillor Purick. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Bailey?
Through the chair, you mentioned the setback, and I read through our presentation here. I can understand that where water courses are, and that makes sense that you've got to muddy those up and wash them out. How much of that fire break area has water courses on it?
There's if I look at the property, there's 2 main water courses, being the Preston River and the water course that you can't see from the road runs in a southwest to a northeast direction. Off of those water courses, we have a minimum of a 6 metre setback off those. And what actually happens in the majority of cases, because those water courses already have existing vegetation buffers, we have additional, it's actually, if we were to draw, if we're on average, look at those properties, that would have a much greater setback actually off the physical bank. So we might even be 15, 30, 50 metres off the bank, depending on whether there's any remnant vegetation on those water courses. So it does vary, but I could provide that information.
So how, other than the 2 water courses, the Preston River and the other one coming in, how much of the fire break area is inundated with water? How much of that?
None of it's inundated of water, but there would be I'd have to pull up the GIS to give you a summary of how much.
So the water courses through the fire break is quite minimal, is what we're saying? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
correct?
like, there's no fire break on a water course.
Yeah, I understand that,
yeah.
but where you want to get back to the 6 metres,
Yeah.
there's no water course in that 6 metres?
No,
Okay.
no, none at
Thank
all.
you.
So no water course. So how we define our setbacks are from the drip line for vegetation and from the top of the bank in terms of water course.
Thank you.
Any more councillors? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving into item 6.4, delegate reports, we have none. And then into adoption by exception. And councillors, we normally read these out. Should we do that for the purpose of the live stream? I'd like to move that council adopt the following items en bloc and resolve in accordance with each of the executive recommendations. This includes item 7.1.1, ordinary council meeting held on the 22nd of April 2026. Item 8.1.1, the Warren Blackwood Alliance of Councils meeting held on the 21st of April 2026. 8.2.1, the South West Country Zone meeting held on the 30th of April 2026. 8.3.1, the Bushfire Advisory Committee meeting held on the 30th of June 2026. Item 9.1.4, the Fire Prevention Order. Item 9.2.1, Schedule of Accounts Paid as at the 30th of April 2026. Item 9.2.4, Policy Review for Investments. Item 9.2.5, the Policy Review for Community Grants and Donations. Item 9.2.6, Rescind Group Valuation of Land Policy, Option 1, Identical Ownership. Item 9.3.2, Strategic Risk Register and Endorsement. Item 9.3.3, Review of Council Representation, Advertising of Discussion Paper for Comment. Item 9.3.4, New Policy for Complaints Handling. Item 9.3.5, Council Plan 2026 to 2036, Endorsement to advertise for public comment. And finally, item 9.3.6, Appointment to the South West Development Commission Board. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Bailey?
I have some questions on 9.2.1, schedule of payments. Can we take that out and debate that one, please?
I will, Councillor Bailey, but we do have a process in place where we like to understand these on blocks prior to the meeting. So,
Well,
and we
look,
also
look,
have...
No need, I'll take it up with you later on, not a problem. Thank you.
You sure? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bailey. The other reason is, Councillor Bailey, we had the opportunity at the agenda briefing as well to raise any questions.
I did raise a question by email and I couldn't find the response, but I'll sort that out later on.
Okay, thanks so much, Councillor Bailey. And are you seconding, or would someone like to second that recommendation? Councillor McNabb? Would anyone like to speak against it? All right, well, that has carried unanimously. Now, I'd also like to move another motion to change the order of business to move forward item 9.1.5 to be the next item for decision. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Lindeman? And anyone like to speak against that? That's carried. Item 9.1.5 then becomes the next item for discussion. Development application P25071, Pine Plantation, Noggerup. Now, councillors, as identified earlier, I'd like to move.
Did you want, sorry to interrupt, this one wasn't actually briefed at the agenda briefing session. Would you like Mrs. Dennis to provide a very small introduction?
Good point. Yes, as CEO pointed out correctly, This has come in late. We didn't have it at the agenda briefing. So I'll invite
Mrs Dennis?
Financial, Development Manager, Development Services, Mrs Dennis, to give us a briefing and also give councillors an opportunity. My apologies. An opportunity to ask questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Council. As was described, we didn't have the information or the response from the applicant's solicitors in time to meet the OCM agenda briefing. That's why it's come at this stage. So planning application P25071 is presented back to Council for consideration, with the officer recommendation being conditional approval. The proposed conditions are generally consistent with those previously presented and taking into consideration all advice received since March. So if anyone had any questions, there's a very noisy bird outside.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Patrick, I can see it coming.
Thanks. Yeah, look, I'm just trying to think of my wording around it to make it a question. No, leave it with me. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor McNabb?
Yes, I did send it through earlier, but given the changed setback from 15 metres to 20 metres as proposed by DBCA, what is the, I guess, justification that that is going to have a real impact in achieving what they're saying in preventing spread of wildling pines? My research suggests that they go much further than that, 20 metres even into the bush and into beyond the plantation area. So a 5 metre additional buffer would have limited impact. And then the same, the second reason that they gave was to have an additional fire control buffer. Do we have any examples or extra information about how that would actually look, given that many factors affect the bushfire spread? The topography, vegetation types, land use and the local risk, and any fire break is always going to be a balance between practical operation and the worst case scenario.
Point of order, there.
Do
It's
you
just
have
a
a
question,
question,
isn't it?
Councillor
Yep,
McNabb?
So what additional information do we have to support that change from regular industry standards?
Thank you, Councillor McNabb. Councillors, just be sure that we're not moving into debate during this allocated question time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So when we get a development application, we send it out to those relevant agencies that might have an interest. So in this case, the site is adjacent to a national park. In that case, DBCA have provided an opportunity to comment. So they see all the information that is submitted as part of the application, and as the subject area experts in managing their own lands, this is the feedback that we receive from them, and that's why the condition has been included, and that was the justification that they provided. We're not subject area experts from fire or national park maintenance, so we rely upon their advice, and that's been pretty consistent with a lot of their advice in relation to plantations adjacent to their land holdings. So that was the justification for us including it as a condition based on their advice.
Thank you, Manager Development Services. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. And that was one that I was trying to word in my head, but thank you. Just a question, if I may, just in relation to the application timeframes and requirements. So as we heard in the deputation, there was a request to say, you know, it should or could it be delayed in relation to getting some more information, particularly around the hydro side of things. Can you provide information as to the timeframe requirements for this application, and if it's not approved within or not addressed within a certain timeframe, what does that mean?
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Manager Development Services.
Yes, so we have a 90-day statutory process time that we need to go through, and that's already lapsed. So the applicant has the opportunity to consider it as a deemed refusal. So they have that right to refer it to the State Administrative Tribunal for review, or a decision in actual fact. So council then does not become the decision maker. Sits in that seat and provides that decision. But it doesn't mean that just because we've gone over time that any decision that's made by council, if it was to be conditionally approved, wouldn't be a valid decision. And regardless, the applicant has the ability to appeal any decision made by council, either a decision or a non-decision or a deferral. So that's open to the applicant at any stage once that statutory timeframe has passed, which is where we're at.
Thank you, Manager Development Services. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Hall?
Thank you. Just through the chair. This is obviously the second time we've seen this, last time being March where we deferred it. In the meantime, we've had agenda briefing sessions, there's been emails circulated, there's been lawyer queries and emails with information fed through to fellow councillors and I. At what point does the application, the officer assessing this application decide or not decide to recommend refusal or to recommend approval like it has in this case? Because my personal view, reading what we've...
Avoid views.
Sorry, my question is, I'm getting there, yes. So my personal view in assessing all of those things we've received in the meantime since March is that it possibly could have been recommended as a refusal here. So why is it still not?
Sorry, that's inadmissible. I can't have that.
Okay, no worries.
Stick to questions.
All right.
Questions that inform you better of
Yep.
any...
No worries, disregard, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Purick, question, please.
Yep, just on the topic of groundwater, so we heard some information in that deputation, but reading the report, you did receive some correspondence from the applicant's lawyers stating that...
Sorry, Councillor Purick, can I just get a check on that?
Referred to the relevant portions within the council report.
Yeah.
So as long as it's in the
So,
report.
As long as
if it's in the report? Yeah. Thank you.
No, so yeah, just from this councillor report stating that they don't propose to provide information on groundwater resources, just confirming that is the case, so they won't be providing information on groundwater. That's the question.
Yes, that's the applicant's position.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Thanks you, Manager Development Services. Got it. Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Now, as foreshadowed, I would like to move an alternate motion, or alternate recommendation, councillors. Are you happy to consider the alternate prior to and achieve an outcome of that alternate recommendation before moving on?
you just move it, Chair. You just
So
move it.
I will move an alternate recommendation. We'll put it up there. That council pursuant to... Sorry?
Sorry, just to change your topic, it's not quite correct. Sorry, just
To
give
what?
us 1 second.
Okay.
Lauren's
Do you want
working
to
on
put
it.
it? Oh,
Lauren's working on it for you.
okay. A moment, councillors.
Sorry, it's just the wording of that, the correct section that you're referencing. The first bit, you just tweaked that.
I could
for you.
read the rest?
The rest
Yeah.
of it's fine.
We'll just work on that first sentence, councillors, and then the reasons for the recommendation is that the proposed development is not compatible with the existing and desired future character of the locality, having regard to its proximity to the Nogarup town site. The development would result in unacceptable impacts on the visual amenity, rural character and livability of the Nogarup locality. The proposal presents unacceptable risk of environmental impact to the adjoining Preston National Park and the Preston River, including potential spread of wildings, weeds and dieback, and impacts on riparian values. Insufficient information has been provided to enable proper assessment of the potential impact on groundwater resources, and the local government cannot be satisfied that the proposal will not adversely affect groundwater relied upon by the Nogarup community. The proximity of the plantation to the Nogarup town site may increase bushfire risk and exposure, resulting in an unacceptable planning outcome. The proposal fails to demonstrate safe and appropriate access to Donnybrook-Boyup Road, a high-speed regional road. The local government is not satisfied that the impacts of the development can be appropriately mitigated through conditions, noting the applicant's refusal to accept minimum setbacks and access requirements which are necessary to address the site constraints and impacts. Having regard to the cumulative effect to all of the above matters, the proposal does not represent an orderly and proper planning outcome and refusal is warranted. And the first section should read that Council, the recommendation is that Council, pursuant to Schedule 2, Part 9, Clause 68(2)(c) of the Planning and Development Local Planning Scheme Regulations 2015, refuse to grant development approval for the application P25071 for the works relating to tree plantation pine on lot 3711 and 3734 (3543) Donnybrook Boyup Road, Donnybrook Boyup Road in Nogarup for the following reasons which I've read out. Would someone like to second?
May I ask a question first?
Yes?
Thank you.
Oh, who are you asking the question?
To the Shire President and
Okay.
mover of this. Could I ask, because I think everyone knows I don't like surprises, I haven't had a chance to cross-reference and read through, etc. But the actual beginning part, so the recommendation, which I don't have here, can I just have a look at that again, the beginning that you've just put in? So can I just double check or verify from officers that the Schedule 2, Part 9, Clause 68(2)(c) of the Planning and Development, Local Planning, blah, 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 schemes regulations, I haven't referenced that. So is that all correct?
Managed Development
check.
Services, I'll ask, I did run that by
Thank you.
Managed Development Services, who's verified the recommendation is lawful.
If I can just add to that. So
Thank you.
officers don't provide input into the reasons of refusal. We've just provided the first bit to make sure, because President McCarthy was using our standard clause, which is the wrong clause for a refusal. So she was using a clause that references approval. So that's all we tweaked, which was the bit of a quick discussion, just to say that's the correct wording for a refusal, but the rest of it's up to you guys.
I appreciate that, and that's all I was clarifying. No one's recommendation except that that is correct information written. Thank you.
To respond further, I've quickly run that through. As you know, I was at a forum and arrived back late this afternoon. I've quickly run that through, run it through both CEO and Manager Planning Development Services. And it is lawful.
Thank you. It was just verifying that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Would someone like to second that recommendation? Councillor Lindeman. Okay. So clause 67 of the provisions requires the local government to have due regard to all relevant planning considerations. This is not a passive exercise for councillors. It requires active and genuine consideration of the likely impacts of a proposal in its specific context. In this case, the location of the proposed plantation gives rise to a number of significant and site-specific planning considerations. The site is directly adjacent to the Nogarup town site, creating potential impacts on visual amenity and the character and livability of the township. Its proximity to the town site raises concerns regarding increased bushfire risk and exposure to residents. The land adjoins Preston National Park, introducing risk of pine wildings, weed incursion and dieback, and necessitating appropriate setbacks and management measures. The site is adjacent to the Preston River, creating potential impacts on riparian vegetation and important environmental values. The plantation would be visible along this recognised tourism route, with potential to diminish the rural landscape character. Access to the plantation is proposed from Donnybrook Boyup Brook Road, a high-speed, 110 km/h regional road, raising legitimate concerns regarding traffic safety. The plantation is located adjacent to a community reliant on groundwater, raising uncertainty regarding potential impacts on groundwater resources, in the absence of sufficient supporting information. While the Shire's officers have recommended conditions aimed at mitigating many of these risks, it is significant that the applicant has requested councillors to amend or reject key conditions, including Condition 6, minimum setbacks, and Condition 9, appropriate access arrangements. These conditions go directly to addressing fundamental planning impacts arising from the site's specific constraints and context. The applicant's request to reject them limits Council's ability to appropriately manage the development's impacts. In addition, insufficient information has been provided to enable proper assessment of potential impacts on groundwater resources. And given the reliance of the Nogarup community on groundwater for domestic and rural purposes, this is relevant and material planning consideration under Clause 67. And while it may not be definitively established that impacts will occur, the absence of adequate information prevents Council from reasonably concluding that impacts will not occur. More broadly, the cumulative effect of the identified planning concerns, including environmental, amenity, bushfire, access and uncertainty regarding groundwater, results in an overall level of impact that cannot be satisfactorily mitigated through conditions in their current form. I also note the applicant's contention that as a P, permitted use, the application can only be conditioned and not refused. This is not correct. A P use may be permitted subject to conditions, but where the impacts of the development are considered unacceptable, refusal remains available to the decision maker, consistent with Clause 67. And finally, the effectiveness of the planning framework relies on a constructive and transparent engagement by applicants. In this instance, the refusal to provide relevant supporting information and the call for councillors to reject reasonable mitigation measures further limit Council's ability to form a positive planning judgment. And for these reasons, I consider that the proposal does not represent an appropriate planning outcome for this specific site, and I support refusal of the application. Thank you, councillors. Would you like to speak to the motion as a seconder? Councillor Lindeman?
Yeah, I will, thank you. I may not necessarily agree with everything that is in this particular alternate motion. However, because I do support plantations as a sustainable alternative to imported timber, I understand farmers need to diversify. Since the WA government ended native logging, a campaign across the nation continues to lobby to save our old growth forests, our native flora and fauna that live and grow there. Victoria and the ACT also ceased native logging and focus on plantation-based forestry. As everyone knows, I like to go and get the lay of the land, so I drove out to Nogarup to have a look around and remind myself of the quaint township that was established in 1907. It backs onto the Preston National Park and bush surrounds every single home there. So there is a real fire risk, and I'm sure increased insurance is notable for these guys. I recall a winter creek, but it wasn't flowing at the time on that side where Nogarup is. I also noted that everyone had large rainwater tanks, but they were gravity-fed tanks, which indicates on stands, which indicates normally that they are, they are bore water. As I approached the town from Donnybrook, on the right-hand side, lot number 3376 has a newly established pine plantation. The closest neighbour also has a very established olive grove. Olive trees are also highly flammable because they're oil rich, but they are highly drought tolerant, so they won't use a lot of water. I have real concerns this plantation is too close to the Preston National Park and the Wellington National Park, which is now expanded to 25,000 hectares. I believe the risk to these national parks, their biodiversity, their carbon capture, and for their beauty, and for the Collies' just transition and tourism strategy, and our own ecotourism strategy, is too great a value to risk with the pine plantation so close. I want to say yes to support local economies, homegrown timber, not imports, but it needs to be further from significant native forests and the Noggorap Township. No one visits a burnt-out forest. The loss in tourism alone would impact our shire. We cannot prevent bushfires, but we can ensure we plan and mitigate as our climate changes, and as the township of Noggorap will need to mitigate and change their behaviours, because groundwater is not going to last as long as we all would like. We're drawing on our reserves as it is, our superannuation, so to speak. So I know we're all going to be facing that. We cannot prevent bushfires, yep, but mitigation. I'm still supportive of plantations, just ones that are of less risk to the area. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lindburn. Would anyone like to speak against the recommendation? Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. This was very last minute. From my perspective, a lot of the content in this recommendation is not really based on anything. So it says, things like the development will result in unacceptable impacts to the visual amenity. Now, looking through at the complaints that we've received or the feedback that we've received from the community, there was one reference. So it's not something that's been highlighted as a significant issue from the community members, which makes it seem that it's not based on really any community feedback or very limited community feedback and concern. Unacceptable risk of environmental impact. We've had the subject matter experts providing the information around setbacks, around fire mitigation risks, and I believe the recommendations from the officer support what the subject matter experts have actually told us as against what we think or possibly believe which could be or may be. Same exists with the bushfire risk and exposure. All in all, I think that this particular recommendation isn't supported by many or any of the facts from the agencies or from the feedback that's been received from community members, other than those that we do have alternate views on, so bushfire risk and exposure. So yes, that has been raised by the community, but at the same time, there has been recommendations made and subject matter experts that have provided input as to how that can be mitigated. So as it stands at the moment, this particular recommendation, I don't believe is supported by much in the way of fact, and as such, I don't agree with supporting it, and I believe other councillors should review it based on those details as well.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone like to speak for the recommendation? Against?
Could I have a question, please, Vivian, through the chair?
Thank you, Councillor Bailey.
The first development application, the hurdles were 6 metres and 9 metres, and access to the Boybrook Road, which I think could have been sorted out. Water was not a part of the executive team's recommendation, but now it is. We've already been advised that the development application is over 90 days and has elapsed.
Do you have a question, Councillor Bailey?
And if we approve this amendment, will this DA go straight to the State Administration Tribunal?
That would be up to the applicant.
But totally out of Shire's hands?
The applicant is then, that's being approved, as I understand, by the State Administrative
So the
Tribunal.
SAT becomes the decision maker.
So completely out of Shire's hands when it goes to SAT?
I'm sorry, there was a car going past.
Completely out of Shire's hands, council's hands,
Yeah.
when it goes to SAT. We are bystanders at that stage.
I will allow the experts to answer that question.
So, thank you for the question. So the State Administrative Tribunal sits in the seat of the decision maker, and depending on the application or how they want to deal with it, usually there's a mediation process first. Sometimes council's asked to reconsider an application. There's a bit of toing and froing. It isn't a short-term process. It can be quite lengthy. but ultimately the State Administrative Tribunal determine the outcome of an application.
Thank you. Through the
Councillor
chair,
Bailey?
just one more. As the water consideration is new and wasn't in the first development application side of it, or when it came to council, how strong is our position as council with this new information being introduced?
I might just answer this. that's
CEO?
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, I won't answer it directly, but I guess the officers have consulted with relevant third parties and have provided their advice and their recommendation based on that expert advice. It's really up to council to weigh up any associated risks with either the matter before it or the motion before it, or indeed any other alternate motions and conditions appropriately as well.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor, did you want to speak for or against? That was just questions. Councillor Hall, are you asking questions or are you speaking for and against?
I'm not sure if I'm speaking for or against. I had a statement prepared to argue the original motion, which similarly aligns to the new amended motion, but I don't also agree with some of the points in the amended motion either, so I'm not too sure how to, if I'm for or against
we'll
it.
throw it over to CEO to recommend or to guide you on how you can take that forward. Yeah.
Thank
What
you.
you're saying is you might want to amend this alternate
All right.
motion.
So let's just be very clear. It's a motion. So let's get the language right. So there was a recommendation put up by officers. So it's actually a motion that is before council. So it's been moved and seconded. So Councillor Hall, it's open to you if you agree with some of it or part of it, to put forward an amendment to the matter before council, which is the refusal, as it was put up by, which was moved by the Shire President and seconded by Councillor Lindemann. So that's open to you, or indeed, if you agree with it or disagree with it, to talk to for it or against it. So I don't know if I provided you clarity, but I wasn't sure really what your question was. But so the matter before council, it's the substantive motion, which is to refuse the application for the reasons that have been outlined up on the screen and articulated by Councillor McCarthy. The matter is now formally before council and up for debate. So it's up to individual councils to provide their view on the matter before council or ask questions accordingly.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you. I think I have enough to proceed with some sort of action here. I'd like to propose an amendment to the amended motion. Thank you.
Okay. And what would you like to put up for an amendment? Do you want to, and we'll ask
Yes, so I believe
Executive Manager Corporate Services to put it up there.
my amendment to the motion would be in regards to the reasons given. I'd like to probably more pinpoint maybe a couple and remove some others. I don't know if this is something that, how we debate which ones could be removed, which aren't as strong as others, or is that just the right forum for that?
You would need to put forward what your change is.
What your change,
Just to,
I think, sorry, through the chair, I just don't believe I've had enough time to really work through this respectfully. Sorry.
okay, just let you sit on that for a minute and you have a question,
Yeah,
Councillor
well, I'm
Lindemann?
prepared to ask for amendment to the amendment, which would be the development result in unacceptable impacts on the visual amenity, rural character and livability.
Just a moment, Councillor Lindemann, I just need a procedural check.
Yep.
Councillor Lindemann's already spoken. So,
Yes, you can move an amendment there.
yep, okay, perfect.
I see that as it's less factual and more subjective, and therefore don't feel that it's relevant, which is number 2. So I would see that as not applicable for the refusal. For me, that's my suggestion.
Okay,
You know, it's subjective.
so you'd like to just take
if-
that one
if-
out?
Yes.
Okay, just to,
Am I to
Just-
give any reason why I think that?
Well, it needs to be
Hang on.
seconded first. So let's just make sure
Yep.
we get procedurally.
Yep, sure.
Get what's going to be before council or your amended motion, and then there's no discussion until it's seconded. Yep.
May I give reason to why I believe that number 2 should be removed?
Does it need to be, I think it might need to be seconded.
Second, we need to
Through the
second that
chair,
motion first.
I'll second that to get it up for debate.
Okay, thank you. And, okay, now, would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Lindemann?
Okay, well, this is just number 2, and I'll need to read through the others to make a decision on. So in principle, agree and have obviously seconded and spoken to this, but the development would result in unacceptable impacts on the visual amenity, rural character and livability of is subjective. It's not factual. I've lived myself across from a pine forest and thoroughly enjoyed it. So I just need to know whether this is not truly factual, it's subjective. So I don't think it's necessary as a way to put a case forward.
Thank you, Councillor Lindemann. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak as a seconder?
No, look, I got it up so we could debate any alterations that need to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against the amended motion? Councillor Purig?
I suppose we're speaking about the amendment. I would like to add some further reasons, remove them. Is this the time to speak about the ones?
No, you can only have one
at a time?
One matter before
Yep.
council at a time.
Okay.
Sorry, do you mind if I just provide some advice? Yeah. So there's nothing, if indeed this amendment has been moved and seconded, so that goes before council. In the event that council that passes it, it then becomes a substantive motion. You can then amend that motion, but just procedurally you need to step through it that way.
Now, so we're talking about the amended motion. Councillor Lindemann has spoken, and mover, and Councillor Bailey has spoken. Would anyone like to speak against the amended motion?
Just a question through the chair. Has Councillor Lindemann finished with her amended motions, or was it just at one point?
We have an amended motion up that's been moved and seconded.
Sorry, I understand she's raised one point. She has more points to raise before she stops talking about her.
No, we would have to go through this motion, this amended motion, and if it's passed, then what it is. But if it fails, then we can have another go. Okay. Now, what's the question?
Just to confirm that once Councillor Lindemann's motion is moved or not, we have an opportunity after that to add additional amendments.
Yes. Yep. Now, would someone like to speak against the amended motion? Would someone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Purig, are you asking a question or speaking?
No, I'm speaking for it.
For the motion,
I am
okay.
speaking to the removal of point 2, and I suppose foreshadowing that I will be moving an additional amendment after this.
Thank you, Councillor Purig. And anyone speak for or against the motion, the amended motion? Would you like to put it to vote, councillors? Would you like right of reply? Councillor Lindemann?
No, but I am still ticking over in regards to possible other amendments. So if this moves on and then someone wants to come in again, is that fine? Yep, thank you.
So councillors will put that to vote. All those in favour of the amended motion?
So that's, I'll call it out. So that's Councillor Bailey, Councillor Hall, Councillor Kean, Councillor Lindemann, Councillor McNabb, Councillor Purig and President McCarthy,
Thank you. And those against?
Councillor Patrick.
And that's carried.
Yep, so that becomes a substantive
That becomes
motion.
a substantive motion. So where we go now?
Well, that motion needs to be voted on. However, I believe councillor Purick may wish to move an amendment to... No, you voted on it. It's an amendment. Therefore, that becomes the motion.
Substantive?
Yep, the substantive motion. So that's basically like your motion going up again, but just with a change. And councillor Purick may wish to move an amendment.
Okay, councillor Purick.
Thank you, President. Yes, I would like to move an additional amendment to the substantive. So I would also like to remove reason number 1, not compatible with the existing desired future character of the locality. Noggorap has a forestry history.
You probably need to second it.
You'll need to
sorry,
second
yep.
it first. Yeah.
So I would like to remove...
Is that a second?
No, it's not
Right.
complete, sorry. So reason number 1, I would like to remove. Reason number 3, I would like to remove. Reason number 6,
Hang on.
We might just...
like to
yep,
remove.
we might just let
so 1, 3 and 6.
1, 3 and 6.
Yes.
Just give us a couple of seconds and we'll... Yeah, just put the strike through on 1, 3 and 6 in it. So it'll be 1, 2, 3 and 6 will be all struck through. So just confirming, councillor, that's your amendment?
1, 3.
There's still
and
refusal?
6. Still a refusal.
Yep.
Can I just...
And councillor Lindemann, are you seconding it?
Can you just scroll that up, please, Manager? Sorry, Executive Manager. Corporate, could you just scroll that up a little bit so we can read the amended motion?
Well, it hasn't got all together, so we'll do that tomorrow, but if I can,
Yeah.
want me to put it all together, I can.
Yep, so we'll just wait a second, just cut that bit out so they can see it in totality. Yeah, do you mind, just make it a bit smaller so it's all on one page if possible. Is that just the out? Yeah. Okay. You comfortable with that? Yep. As in, that's what's been moved and seconded?
Is that as you want it?
Yes, thank you.
And a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hall? Would you like to speak to your amended
I would. Thank you.
motion? Thanks.
So let me just bring that back up. Item number 1, Noggorap and its surround has a long history of forestry. What is now the Preston National Park, the Grimwade areas, it has long been forested. It is a traditional colonial or European use of that land. So I do believe that that is in character of the site. So that's why I asked to remove that one. Item number 3, reason number 3, the unacceptable risk of environmental impact. We did consult with the relevant agencies. They did request larger setbacks and the like, and I am comfortable there that that item was resolved. Item number 6, I think with appropriate works, safe and appropriate access to Donnybrook by Brook Road could be achieved. I have left a number of them in, particularly. So after this amendment, we'll go back into the substantive. and I will have an opportunity to speak on the substantive. So it's just why I've asked to remove those. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you. That's why I've asked to remove those.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Councillor Hall?
Thank you. I agree with those points, and I will be debating in the substantive as well. Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak against the amended motion? For or against? Right of reply, Councillor Purick?
No, nothing on the amendment. I'll save that for the substantive.
Okay. We'll put that to vote. All those in favour?
So it's all those in favour, yep. So it's Councillor Hall, Councillor Kean, Councillor Lindeman, Councillor McNabb and Councillor Purick.
And those against?
Councillor Bailey, Councillor Patrick and President McCarthy.
Carried.
Okay, so that's now becomes the substantive motion. Yep.
Let me just...
So they've amended your motion. Yep. So you've now that now becomes a substantive motion. So you can now ask people to speak for or against it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, as that becomes a substantive motion, would councillors like to speak for the substantive motion? Councillor Bailey?
Through the chair, you'd be pleased to know I'd like to move an amendment to the motion.
Okay.
And the amendment is simply to remove point 8, which I think is obsolete now.
Sorry, what was that?
Remove point 8.
Just wants to strike through of number 8.
Okay.
We're going to get back to approval soon.
And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Hall?
Yeah, just maybe just
Okay.
give us a second to
Yeah, we'll
catch up.
let records catch up.
So can we just confirm that that's correct, Councillor Bailey?
Councillor Hall and Councillor Bailey? Okay. Would you like to speak to the amended motion, Councillor Bailey?
Just one sec, I'd like to have a look at that first part. One sec. No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hall, would you like to speak to the amended motion?
No, nothing to add to that one.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against the amended motion? For or against? Right, councillors, we'll put that to, right of reply, John. We'll put that to vote. All those in favour?
Councillors Bailey, Hall, Kean, Lindeman, Purick and McCarthy.
And against?
Councillors Patrick and McNabb.
Thank you, councillors. That now becomes a substantive motion. Okay, would anyone like to speak for the substantive motion? Councillor Hall? Away you go.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to express my approval of the for side of this fourth attempt at the motion, which I think has done a great job by all the fellow councillors. Is that the on the screen up there, that's the final version.
Might just double. All right.
Okay.
Yep. So that's now the substantive motion. Yep.
Yeah, great. I'll just read a statement that I prepared for this one. So, firstly, just want to acknowledge the considerable amount of work that's gone in for this particular application through our officers and applicants and members of the community regarding their feedback. Sorry, just point of order here. Am I speaking to the entire motion now from a point? Yes, great.
So that's the matter before council that you're
Perfect. So I'll continue on. Just wanted to make sure before I
You're right.
keep going. I also want to commend the applicant in their adjustments to setbacks at the request of the community earlier in this process and hope they continue to invest within the Shire of Donnybrook bailing up for many years to come. However, after reviewing the updated information, I still remain unable to support the proposal in its current form. In March, we deferred this matter because it is considered there was insufficient information regarding potential groundwater impacts to Nogarup. In my view, that concern has not been resolved. In fact, the updated report confirms that DWER does not possess detailed aquifer data for the area, and the geology beneath the plantation and the town site may be connected. The applicant declined to provide further groundwater investigations requested by the council in March, so this leaves us in a position where uncertainty still exists. I do not believe council should ignore that uncertainty simply because there is no formal objection from a state agency invited to provide comment, nor simply because officers believe the impacts may be capable of being managed through conditions. Clause 67 of the Planning and Development Regulations require council to give due regard to likely effects of development on water resources, the natural environment, amenity and local impacts. In my view, those considerations remain significant in this case. I'm also concerned about the broader interface between the proposal and the Nogarup community that's been expressed through consultations, letters and petitions. The proposal introduces a large-scale pine plantation immediately opposite their small rural settlement, and residents have expressed genuine concerns regarding bushfire risk, visual and rural amenities, road safety, erosion runoff, Preston River impacts, and the long-term impacts to their township. While conditions can manage some technical matters, conditions do not necessarily remove the broader planning question of whether this is appropriate land use outcome for this particular location. It is important to remember that a P use under the scheme does not mean automatic approval. Council still retains discretion where impacts are considered unacceptable. Council is unable to confidently determine impacts to be acceptable when there is insufficient information. In the absence of this certainty, I must therefore place the weight on the intent of our local planning frameworks, including the protection of townside amenities, character, appropriate land uses around the settlement. This proposal may comply technically in some respects, but I'm not satisfied that it aligns with the broader planning outcomes of our community that our community expects for Nogarup. Finally, I do not believe the possibility of a SAT appeal should determine council's position. Potential appeal costs should not deter council from refusal where legitimate planning grounds exist. For those reasons, I cannot support this application and implore my fellow councillors to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. Yeah, look, in relation to this whole application, I don't support this motion as it stands. I also didn't support the original motion, and I had some proposals around that one. My concern is playing the devil's advocate. I agree entirely with Councillor Hall that cost shouldn't have a play in, concerns of it going to the SAT. However, outcomes are a concern from the SAT, and having looked back through lots of applications that have come through, unfortunately, they do tend to go against the local government, the local councils, and any opportunity that we had to try and manage this application in the best interest of the community, I believe the people around this table had the obligation to do so. As I said, I had some thoughts or recommendations around the original proposal. However, I do believe that if this goes to the SAT, cost is irrelevant. I think it's going to be taken out of our hands, and as a result, some of the recommendations, some of the concerns and some of the issues that we may have been able to mitigate on behalf of the community, we will no longer have the power to do so, which is why I don't support this refusal as it stands. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Anyone like to speak for the recommendation? Councillor Purick?
Thank you, President. I am supportive of the amended motion. The crux of it really for me is the decision not to provide additional information on groundwater resources. I believe that's a legitimate concern of the Noggorot community. The weight that would be placing on that community is unacceptable. If that information came to light and was presented and showed that there was no impact, then I would be supportive of this application. I am supportive of primary industries in the region. I am supportive of pine plantations. It is a necessary material for the growth of our country. But yeah, it really comes down to the groundwater issue and the decision not to provide additional information. So I am supportive of this amended motion to refuse. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Lindemann?
Sure, just again, reiterating probably what I said, I am supportive of plantations. I am. It's the future. We don't have any native logging and we don't want to be doing that. I can introduce new information because this is a different motion. So I will say that I had the pleasure of sitting and listening to Bob Brown and Defiance, and sometimes you have to vote even when you probably know that things don't kind of go the way that maybe you think they will when it goes through the system. But it is about stopping native logging and allowing plantations to supply our country. I think we've experienced that through some of the troubles we've had in diesel prices, etc., that you have product on hand. It's a way of carbon capturing. I think it's the way we have to go. It's just unfortunate that it is in the position that it's in and there were a lack of facts that we needed. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lindemann. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Bailey?
Through the chair, question, could I look at number 8, please? Impacts, setbacks, and then we've got access requirements. Was that access requirement simply that it had to go in now and not in 20 years' time? Was that the only conflict there?
Can I answer that one, or would you like to answer it? The access requirements was around the pushback on that related to the fact that it wasn't considered necessary by the applicants until harvesting. But the response that we received from planning, from Main Roads, that was the access during the growth period. Is that what it's called? The maintenance, and I'll let you answer.
Sorry, the feedback from Main Roads was that the existing crossover is not adequate now for any activity, not just harvest activity. So they consider the crossover to be in an unsafe location. That's why the officer recommendation was worded the way that it was.
So the question is, the Main Roads want that access moved. So is it simply a matter of moving the access, or is it creating the whole road?
Thanks, through the chair, just moving the access to a different location along that property boundary.
Okay. So the road itself doesn't have to be sealed at this stage. That'll be done in 20 years' time, 25 years' time when it's going to be used?
So another one of the previous officer recommended conditions was around a harvest plan being provided before harvesting is instigated, for an opportunity to be referred to those agencies. So that's a future consideration, but currently Donnybrook Boyoutbrook Road's a main road controlled road. So the access considerations are theirs, not ours. But because it's a planning approval, we placed the condition with their comments in mind. So that's why it was worded the way it was. And And the point that was made by Main Roads was it's not just about harvest, the access is considered dangerous now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That helps.
I must have misunderstood. I thought it said that you couldn't plant until that road was in and sealed. But what we're saying now is just that entry that's got to be removed and not sealing of the whole road.
So the access, the crossover, would have to be moved and then constructed to a standard suitable to main roads. They normally do require seal. If it's coming onto a sealed road,
Sure,
they
yeah.
normally require a sealed standard to a certain point. And the reason it was worded prior to planting is because they considered that the current access was dangerous,
Oh,
not
okay, yeah,
just
no,
at
clear, thank
harvest
you.
time.
So the crossover will be sealed for the first 20 metres and that's the end of it. Doesn't have to do the whole road straight up.
That would be up to main roads, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Were you speaking to the motion, Councillor Bailey? Just a question? Yeah, okay. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor McNabb?
Yeah, I'm speaking against. I realise that we don't have a lot of groundwater information, but I don't think that that is something that is going to be able to be supplied to us in a way that we can definitively satisfy ourselves that there would not possibly be any impact. So I think it's probably an unreasonable request to show, for everyone around the room to feel confident that there could not possibly be an impact on town site water.
I'm sorry, I wasn't quite sure. Were you speaking against the recommendation as it is? Yeah. I'll also speak to the motion. Just to reiterate that I believe the number of mitigations that we were assessing and was presented to council did have a cumulative effect, which is why I tried to speak more broadly of that cumulative effect. But I do believe that the insufficient information provided around prevented us from making a proper assessment of the potential impacts on groundwater resources. So given the reliance of the community on that groundwater resource, I felt that not knowing is unacceptable. We cannot make a planning decision without that information. And then finally, just our planning framework does rely on constructive and transparent engagement by applicants, and in this instance, the refusal to provide the relevant supporting information that we needed. I felt that my ability to form a positive planning judgment was hampered. So for those reasons, I would support this motion. Would anyone else like to speak for it? I think we're just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Councillor Bailey, you didn't want to speak to the motion at all? Just a moment, councillors.
It's still your motion, so you still have a right of reply. But you've just
Yeah, I've just spoken. I do have a right of reply, but I've just spoken again. Councillors will put that to vote. And all those in favour?
Councillors Bailey, Hall, Kean, Lindeman, Purick and President McCarthy.
And all those against?
Councillors McNabb and Patrick.
Thank you, councillors. And thank you for your patience. I do recognise that that was a very difficult recommendation to work through. So, thank you. So moving back into the order of business, councillors, we go into item 9.1.1. The 5-year Capital Forward Roadworks program. And Councillor Purick and McNabb will leave the chambers. Have you got somewhere dry to stand up there? You got a jumper? Thank you, councillors. We'll just have a moment to settle down. Excuse me, gallery. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh.
Guys, we're still meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, 9.1.1, 5-year capital forward works, roadworks program. Would councillors like to move the recommendation? Councillor Patrick. And seconder, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Patrick.
Look, nothing really to say on it. I think it's well thought out what's being proposed, and appreciate the work and the effort that's gone into it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey. Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? We'll put that to vote, councillors. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, right of reply, Grant. No. Okay, we'll put that in favour. All in favour?
That's
Carried.
unanimous. That's unanimous. Laura?
And then
Leave them out there. It's not cold enough.
now, Councillor McNabb can return, but not Councillor Pure.
Oh, Puri?
9.1.2.
This is impartiality, so you can stay for impartiality?
Oh,
Yeah.
you can stay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, item 9.1.2, election of office bearers, Bushfire Advisory Committee. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Bailey, and seconded. Councillor Hall. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hall?
No, thanks.
Anyone like to speak against the motion? Right of reply? Oh, there's no need, I suppose, if there's no one speaking against the motion.
Councillor Puri may wish to make a comment.
Or Councillor Pure.
Can I just confirm with my impartiality, am I allowed to vote on this? Yep.
Okay, if no one's speaking against the motion, we'll put that to vote, councillors. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. 9.1.3, authorisation of nominated fire control officers. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Hall and Councillor Bailey. Councillor Hall?
No, just some great appointments on that list, and it's great the people that give up their time and for the care of their local community and their surrounds and their neighbours. It's great.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Bailey? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? We can take that as carried then, can't we?
Take that as
Yes.
carried.
Thank you. 9.1.4 is on block. 9.1.15 has been dealt with. Moving into 9.2, Director of Finance and Community. 9.2.1 is on block. 9.2.2, Monthly Financial Report for the period ending 30th of April 2026. As this report was a late addition to the agenda, Director Young, if you'd like...
Mrs.
Oh, sorry.
Hazelden, Manager
Oh,
of
sorry.
Financial Services.
Over there, Manager of Financial Services, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam President. So the report presented today is the Statement of Financial Activity for month ending April 2026. So revenue from operating activities is tracking 4.9% ahead of budgeted estimates and is largely due to the reimbursements that have been received this year. Operating expenses is on track against year-to-date budget estimates. So materials and contracts is currently 10% under budget due to consultant expenditure. Some expenditure for consultants have been identified as still required, however, will not be spent by the end of the financial year. These will be carried over into the new financial year and included within the new budget. Proceeds from capital grants is 13% under budgeted estimates and is largely due to the timing of recognising income for projects such as VCM Mitchell Park and the works carried out on the Shire's bridges. Expenditure relating to the acquisition of Shire's fixed assets is tracking $1 million below budget and are all timing variances. Unspent capital expenditure identified at the end of the financial year will be carried over for completion in the new financial year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do councillors have any questions for Manager Financial Services? No? Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Hall and Councillor Purick seconding. Councillor Hall, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Purick? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Right a reply? We'll take that as carried. (9.2.3) Adoption of schedule of fees and charges for 2026-27. And councillors, we have a decision to make by absolute majority. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Hall. And a seconder? Councillor Purick. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Hall?
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to extend my thanks to the hard work of the Shire staff to putting this together. It's a very comprehensive document. Just for the people listening in, don't be intimidated by the page number. It looks a lot bigger than it was previously, but it's something that we're aware of and trying to simplify, I believe. But yes, I think that noting that the changes and the increases have been justified through our workshopping and our discussions before this meeting, I think it's as expected. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Purick?
Yeah, echoing what Councillor Hall has said, it's a very well put together document. The increases are reasonable. I was pleased to see some decreases, particularly in the in-term swimming lessons. Great to get more kids into swimming lessons. I did have some questions about rubbish collection. I've had a second look through. Yeah, just hope to see that the curbside rubbish collection fees at the adoption of the budget are sort of in line with those tip fees, but overall, yeah, the fees and charges, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Patrick?
Yes, thank you. Look, all in all, I think it's fantastic. Look, Councillor Bailey did raise a query, and it was replied to, but I think it was to your personal email address, which is why you might not have seen it. It was replied to your council one. My concern around this sits with the Balingup Transit Park. So based on the feedback that was provided, the services available at the Balingup Transit Park are quite limited in comparison to other comparatives that were provided. I think knowing that the transit park itself is literally on the Bibbulmun track, we have a lot of track walkers coming through there, and I'm a big part of the track walkers page and look at a lot of commentary. And whilst it's not so much around the level of facilities, I think it's very, very different to the Donnybrook Transit Park, which has got, after hours, there's petrol stations, there's IGA, there's pubs, there's places to go, things to do, charging the same rate for what is essentially just a piece of grass on the edge of an oval in Balingup, where there is nowhere for them to go outside of that. There's no other infrastructure really around it. Again, compared to those other shires that the CEO provided the comparative from, I think it was February this year, I believe that we are asking too much for what is on offer for that one particular aspect within the fees and charges. And as such, whilst I support everything else in the document, that's one line item that I can't support because I don't think it's fair and reasonable. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Bailey?
Sorry, it'll be a bit against that same
Against?
point.
That's okay. You can go ahead with that.
Thank you. Look, I agree. The Fonties Pool, ring them today to clarify. I've got a lot of feedback from people. They're not happy about what we're charging. So down at Fonties Pool right at the moment, you pay for 2, you get 3 days. And only paying for 2, so it works out at $28 for a powered site for 2 people. In there, they're going to be closed for July, August. Then their powered sites for 2 people is $40 a night, and we're trying to charge 48. And we're not competing well with anybody, and most people I've spoken down to that aren't there anymore. They're not coming. So I'd like to see this reviewed and see what we can really do to get it down to make people come.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? I'll speak for the motion. I think we've had much discussion around this. We've given direction and we've arrived at this document through considerable work. So I support it in its current state and yes. On that, would anyone else like to speak to the motion? A question, Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, through the chair, I move the motion with an amendment to take out and do further research on the cost of the Balingup Transit Park.
I don't know. Councillor Bailey's already spoken. Do we?
Oh, he can move an amendment.
It's an amendment.
It's an amendment. He's going to
All
move an
right.
amendment. Yep.
And what was your amendment again? Sorry.
The only part will be amended that we take out the approval for the cost of the Balingup Transit Park and allow us to give us more time. Everything else will go through as normal.
As a procedural thing, I think we can do that. But bearing in mind, this is part of the budget process, and we have given clear direction on how to go here. It's been put before council to consider before.
Well, I
We can do
understand that. I understand the discussion about that, but we've got a facility down there that's not being used because we're not competing well with Donnybrook or Mansmup or anywhere else at the moment. So
Can I ask a
we
procedural-
either want it used or we don't, is what I'm saying.
Well, we can raise an amendment. Have
Sorry?
you got the wording for the amendment?
Yeah, the amendment will, we take, everything else will go through. The amendment is we take out the costing of the Balingup Transit Park and have a comparison to what's being charged around the place. It's only going to be a handful of dollars, but it might make a difference.
Okay. Is that amendment, CEO, can I ask if that amendment is going to fit within the budget process? And is it doable?
Yeah,
Is it possible?
If that's the will of council, we'll be able to bring a report back up to get that specific fee or charge adopted at the next at the June OCM, which would be before the budget. So that's fine. But yep, so it's lawful and enforceable.
Okay.
We can carry that. Did you want a statement that, and for a report to be brought back at the June OCM, providing a comparison of similar levels of service for the Balingup Transit Park to other like or other similar?
I trust you to look after it just as it is, mate.
So we'll
just
need to adopt a fee and charge.
Half
yeah.
a dozen words, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry. You comfortable with that, Councillor Bailey? Yep.
And a seconder for that amended motion?
I had a question.
Question?
Yeah.
Councillor Lindeman.
Does that need to elaborate a little further with the consideration that the Donnybrook Transit Park will be closed for so many months? So there will be no, don't worry about it. It will be closed, so there'll be no income from that.
Yeah, so
So it is just a consideration, that's all. I'm not sure how long we've got it closed for.
yeah,
I forgot.
So this is actually, sorry, do you mind if I respond? Yeah, so this is actually just setting the fees and charge based on levels of service and based on cost recovery. So when Mr Marshall put up his report saying we're going to do as emergent works, we did notify that. As part of I would have thought the income projections for next financial year, we'll take on board the fact that facility will be closed. That'll be part of the budget discussions itself, but it's not relevant to setting the fee and charge.
Okay. So we have an amended motion moved by Councillor Bailey and seconded by Councillor Patrick. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to your amendment? Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. No, look, I wasn't actually sure we could amend this because I thought it was the document itself that we were approving and not, yeah. I appreciate this was workshopped. I'm not sure if prior to these last couple of days we've received that comparison. I don't know if I don't believe that I've seen that comparison, which to me was new information, which is what has. No, look, and I apologise if I have missed it. I'm not saying it wasn't sent previously, But for me, it was new information, which taking into account that comparison. Also looking at a lot of recent conversation on, there's about 3 Facebook pages for Bibbulmun track walkers. I'm of the opinion that, yes, this is a really good amendment. Happy with everything else in there, so encourage others to support this amendment as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? And for the motion? Councillor Purick? For the
yeah.
amended motion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, speaking for the amendment, look, I am supportive of it, especially after the description that Councillor Patrick gave. I'm not intimately familiar with the site. I'm not on the Bibbulmun track walkers, but now that you've painted that picture, I can clearly see you're walking off the bib. You're on the side of an oval. I think this is a reasonable amendment. So thank you, Councillor Bailey and Councillor Patrick.
Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? No. We'll put the amended motion to, go back to a right of reply for
No, thank you.
Councillor Bailey.
No, thank you.
Okay. We'll put that to vote, councillors. Those in favour of the amended...
Sorry, do you mind if we just hang on? We've just got a bit of a technical issue.
Okay.
Lauren just had to get out and get back in. It's further down, mate. Now just double check that's accurate because we did have a little technical glitch. Good to go.
Okay. So we're putting this to vote, the amended motion to vote. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
And those against?
Councillor McCarthy?
Thank you, councillors. So that brings us back to,
well,
that
sorry,
becomes
no, that's the
the
yes.
substantive motion.
Sorry.
And 1, 2, 3. Would anyone else like to speak to the substantive motion that hasn't done so? Councillor Hall? Actually, Councillor Hall, you've got right of reply. So if there's no one else wants to speak to the now substantive motion? No? Councillor Hall, right of reply?
Nothing to reply to. I just have a question, probably. If I can ask a question.
Yes.
If the vote passes, we're back to the original. No. Sorry, it's passed.
No.
It is passed. Is it now a absolute majority for this now? Yep.
Now, if no one else would like to speak to the motion, for or against, Councillor Hall, you have right of reply. And you're fine. Councillors, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
So that's Councillors Bailey, Hall, Kean, Lindeman, McNabb and Purick.
And those against?
Councillor...
That's why I was giving you the...
Well, you got what you wanted.
That's why I was giving you the...
So the amendment, yep.
You're for,
So
you're
you
for.
wanna just
Okay.
Resubmit it? Yep.
All right, so that's for, and those against?
Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, councillors. Item 9.2.4 is on block, as is 9.2.5 and 9.2.6, which brings us to 9.3, reports from the Chief Executive Officer. 9.3.1, review of council policy, elected member allowances and entitlements, policy EMCP5. And councillors, we again have an absolute majority decision to make. Would someone like to move the recommendation?
Yeah, we've just got a few little technical issues. Hang on, she can reach you, councillor. All right.
Okay, so there's the executive recommendation. Would someone like to move that, please? I'll move it. And a seconder? Councillor Lindemann. And yeah, I really don't have a lot to say. Councillor Lindemann? No? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? 9.3.1?
So it's just-
Council notes the review and adopts Council Policy EMCP5, elected member allowances and entitlements, and it has to do, I think, with the ARIC.
Yeah, so I guess probably just reflecting back on councillors through you, Chair, the briefing at the agenda briefing session, the main change here is the proposed payment of the independent members for the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee as part of the local government reform. So there was a bracket, and the recommendation is as per the officer's report or the content in the policy.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick, did you want to speak for or against?
Against or potentially offer an amendment. So thank you through the chair. As outlined, the idea of this or the main adjustment within the policy is to make a payment per meeting. Admittedly, it's not monthly or anything, but per meeting to the chair of the Audit Risk Committee and paying at the highest band, which was $12.15. However, noting that councillors themselves don't receive the highest band, and I think it's a bit of a, not kick in the face, but I believe that, you know, there's thoughts around, well, you know, we want to get good people, so we're going to pay the best that we can pay. And if that was the same, I think that's a poor reflection on the thoughts around the council that receive about 65% of that band. And as such, I'm of the opinion that that would be an appropriate amount to pay them this similar percentage that council gets paid, which would put that at about $789.75, roughly, is kind of what I worked it out to be, per meeting, which, you know, is what councillors have accepted. I think, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong around those percentages, but I believe it's 65% roughly of the band is what councillors receive, elected members, and believe that, yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say the percentage was?
Look, from my rough math, and it was only rough in the early part of today, it was around 65%, I think, is where we sit.
23
So we get 23% of the...
of the maximum.
You're in the 25th percentile.
23rd.
That's the policy position.
Yeah, the ranges are different. Okay, so yeah, proportionate to the elected members' rate. I'll go with that.
Are you raising an amendment?
No,
You're
I'm speaking against this. I'm just
Speaking
speaking against this at this stage. Yep.
Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Lindemann.
May I ask a question, please?
Oh, a question.
Yep. With the allowance, was that, were the people applying for a position based on an advertised allowance or a noted allowance? Or did they apply for a position because they wanted to assist and we've nominated the amount?
The process was that WALGA put together a panel of qualified auditors to perform as independent external members of the committee. And the chair is now on that panel. So that bank of suitable auditors. And
Yeah, they're
then
not
that...
quite auditors, but yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, so there was a two-stage process. So, yeah, so you're exactly right, Shire President. There was the pre-qualified panel of independent members. Some of them are auditors, so you're correct, and others are just have financial qualifications and CPA accredited. And also the Shire, I guess, Belt and Braces also went out and undertook a recruitment or expression of interest process. The figure is, as per the officer's report, the band is set by the Independent Salaries and Remuneration Tribunal. We didn't advertise a certain figure, but obviously we need to pay within that. And I guess the purpose of this policy is to provide some granularity and some certainty around what that figure looks like. As to what the actual motivations were for those independent members, I wouldn't want to speculate, and whether, you know, paying them $1,215 as opposed to $700, whether that would change their mind, I'm not sure, but I guess it's just what's fair and reasonable in the eyes of the elected members.
Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? Yep. Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. So just to clarify my position, this is a question. So we're band 3, correct?
Yes.
So the annual allowance payable for band 3 for elected members is up to 18,000 something. So we receive 11,000 and something, which to me, on the quick math, was 65% of the maximum amount. So that's where I was getting at. We receive 65% of the maximum amount.
So councillors, that's your policy position when it comes to the payment. It's in the 25th percentile.
Yeah, look, I must admit the 25th percentile, when I'm doing the basic math of saying the maximum allowable amount is 19,000 essentially,
Sure.
we received 11,000, which is 65% of that 19,000.
Yep.
So therefore, the number that I came up with was 65% of the maximum allowable.
Sure.
So that was my question for clarity. You said that's right? Okay, thanks.
Question?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Patrick. Now, would anyone like to speak for or against the motion?
Can I just, sorry, President, can I just clarify? I missed it because I was...
No, there's no amendment.
There's no
being raised.
amendment? Okay, thank you.
I just have
Councillor, you
another
have a
question.
question?
Yeah.
Yep.
So with two...
Councillors, just a moment, please. Councillor McNabb. Councillor Lindemann.
With 2 external members, how much would that look in our budget, allocated amount in our budget
Yeah, I think I'm on it. All right.
Yep.
for 26,
CEO, would you
27,
like to-
please?
Yeah, sure. So, councillors, just for clarity, there's under the legislation, there's a requirement to have a minimum of 2 independent members. The first one is the chair, and that's proposed that that position obviously is the chair, so attends every meeting. We have roughly at a minimum 4, so 4 by 4. Second, 7. Yes. Yes, so it's 4 by $1,215, so 4,800 is the impact. Now, the other position that is a requirement is the deputy of the presiding member. That position isn't required to attend each of the ARIC meetings. It's only in the absence or the unavailability of the presiding member. However, the deputy of the presiding member can attend as an observer, however, does not have voting rights. Yeah?
So the question was
And
the
wouldn't be paid.
ballpark amount that's
So
going to be going into
$4,800
for
Yep.
the year.
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
As
Any
it
other
stands.
questions before we continue with the motion? Okay, so this has been raised by me, seconded by Anita. Councillor Patrick spoken, and so has, that's all. So would anyone else like to speak to the motion for or against? Okay. I have right of reply, but I've got nothing further to add. So councillors will put that to vote. All those in favour of the recommendation?
Councillors Bailey, Hall, Lindemann, McNabb, Purick and President McCarthy.
And those against?
Councillor Keon and Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, councillors. We have
We've had an absolute majority.
absolute majority. Okay. Now, 9.3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6 are all on block. Taking us to item 9.3.7, appointment of independent members, Audit and Risk Improvement Committee. And again, we have an absolute majority decision to make. Would councillors like to approve the executive recommendation? Sorry, would you like to move the recommendation? Councillor Patrick? And a seconder, Councillor Purick. Councillor Patrick?
No, look, nothing to add. Following from the last point, I think it's great to have independent members. I appreciate them putting their hand up and saying for it, and I think they should be remunerated. And that'll be something to deal with at another time as a result of the last item. However, they seem to be good candidates. I must admit I haven't done a lot of individual research, but they, I appreciate them putting their hand up with their experience and their knowledge, so support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the recommendation? Oh, yes, you have the opportunity because you seconded. Thank you. Anyone else? Right of reply? We'll put that to vote. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. And thanks to Executive Manager Corporate Services for all the work that went into the transition to the new ARIC. Moving on to 9.3.8. Professional development event, Rethinking Business as Usual. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Patrick. And a seconder? Councillor McKeown. Councillor Patrick?
Look, I think professional development's important regardless of your role, your position or anything else. Appreciate Councillor Lindeman making the time to go and get some professional development, which may in turn come back and support council to make more informed decisions on things. So I think it should be supported. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Keown? Anyone else like to speak against the motion? For the motion?
Could I say something about this motion? One, that I did ask for other people if they wanted to come along, but secondly, that I was willing to pay for myself to go if that is deemed appropriate or people want to support that. I was happy to pay myself.
Are you raising an amendment?
Oh, well, I can do. You can. I believe it's $85. I'm not sure if there's a discount for that. $82.50. Thank you.
Discount for a table of 10.
Yeah. Anyway, I am willing to do that if. Anyway, that's all.
I don't think that's necessary, but I'll speak to the motion, and I think it's wonderful that you're going, but perhaps you can bring back any insights to us as in a workshop situation. Would be lovely. Thank you. All right, councillors, we'll put that to vote. I don't think, Grant, you want to reply? I'll put that to vote. All councillors in favour?
So it's unanimous.
It's carried. We have no elected member motions. Moving to new business of an urgent nature, we've got nothing there. And we move now on to meeting closed to the public. We have two matters for which the meeting may be closed. Both reports, item 12.1.1 and 12.1.2, are confidential in accordance with section 5.232C of the Local Government Act 1995, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public. Under C, a contract entered into or which may be entered into by the local government and which relates to a matter to be discussed at the meeting. So would councillors like to move, or if you like, I can move that the meeting be closed in accordance with section 5.23C. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Patrick.
Patrick.
All in favour?
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
It's 7:03. We'll just switch off the... both saying we're good to go.
So, all in favour? Right, we're back live.
Yep, so that's not the resolution. No, so just, so if you just give us a minute, please.
Okay.
President.
Yes, we
Just
shall
give
do.
us a minute, just, the resolution actually had the price on both of them. And then the next one, yeah, get that other one, so it's 100% correct.
Okay, so 12.2, public reading of resolutions that may be made public. 12.1.1, RFT 3662526, Argyle Irish Town Volunteer Bushfire Brigade, civils. The civil works.
Civil works,
Yeah,
yep.
okay. That council resolve to request the Chief Executive Officer to award RFT 3662526 to DBCEC in accordance with their submitted price of $506,790, and to request the Chief Executive Officer to provide advice to tenderers in accordance with the Local Government Functions and General Regulations 1996. And item 12.1.2, RFT 032526, Argyle Irish Town Volunteer Bushfire Brigade shed. Council resolved to request the Chief Executive Officer to award RFT 032526 to Rantam Proprietary Limited, trading as Sheds Down South, in accordance with their alternative tender submitted price of $473,507. On completion of the project and relocation by the brigade, endorses the proposal of the existing Argyle Irish Town Bushfire Brigade facility in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995 and removal from the Shire's assets. And 3, requests the Chief Executive Officer to provide advice to tenderers in accordance with the Local Government Functions and General Regulations 1996. And that takes us to item 13, closure. And I can advise that the next agenda briefing session will be held on the 17th of June 2026 at 5 p.m. in the Shire of Donnybrook Balingup Council Chamber. And I declare the meeting closed at 7:09 p.m. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Executive.